Well done! You are now well prepared for your invasion of our amazing future. And I'm now just going to do a recap basically of what has been covered. And the way to think about using this recap is, when you find yourself in your organization or your startup or wherever you may be, either as a product manager or a leader or a member of an innovation team, and you're struggling. You're wondering, what could be wrong? What could be going on? Why are we struggling? Come back to this recap lesson and just go through it, and it may give you some pointers again about where to go and focus, and maybe review then that specific lesson in the course, and also look at the recommended reading list after each course for maybe some more information and in-depth view about where you could be focusing on in terms of achieving your innovation goals. So let's go. So where we started off was the world is going through a cognitive explosion, where we are now not only augmenting our muscles and definitely our senses, but also really our brains in terms of being able to make correlations and innovate much faster. So the world is going to become a much more interesting place much faster as we're all invading this future together. And we saw that the world is becoming a platform, with a global, integrated, automated platform for production, distribution, and service to meet human needs. And what's basically happening is because we're automating the world, it is more and more becoming humans and their knowledge workers invading the future. And we saw that if you want to understand how to think about having many humans with many different skills working towards a shared purpose in very volatile circumstances, a good place to look at is military strategy and tactics. And we covered roughly what those military strategy and tactics are at a high level. Okay, and the way we're applying these military strategy and tactics to the situation is finding solutions to human needs. And these solutions need to be, first of all, desirable. People want them. They need to be feasible. They can be done. And they need to be viable. They will succeed in our world of limited resources and limited time. People will believe that doing this is sensible. Okay, and it'll be a viable solution. And if we combine those three, we achieve victory. And we saw the UK Design Council's Double Diamond, the approach of exploring the problem space and then converging on a good problem definition, followed by exploring the solution space and converging on a solution which is fit for market at that point in time. Okay, and then we review that. You can't start anything if you don't have intelligence about the future that you'll be invading. And the kind of intelligence is general market intelligence, what is going on out there in your industry and market space and segment or whatever the case may be, geography, together with in understanding and intelligence about technology and where it is at this point in time, as well as how well your organization is currently performing, obviously combined with customer intelligence, the most important one. And the best intelligence is verified intelligence. So we don't make too many long, big plans. We make some plans and then verify some plans and then verify. Okay, verified intelligence. And the crux to being able to do this is not having great ideas. We can have lots of ideas. The crux is understanding what your customers' problems are. Okay, and if you have a good problem, then you work to solve that problem. And we looked at methods of gathering intelligence to get to these underlying problems that customers are experiencing. And it's outcome-driven innovation, or jobs to be done, by Tony Ulrich and Clayton Christensen. A good way to form a general understanding in your organizations about what jobs are customers trying to do and what are the outcomes associated to them. And the great thing about these jobs to be done and these outcomes is that they remain relatively static. Only the solutions change. And once you've done this for the area that you're busy in, you only need to repeat it maybe every 2 or 3 years. And then you can just continue reviewing solutions about these different outcomes. And it's a good way to identify opportunities where there are underserved customers having specific jobs they need doing where they're not satisfied with that solution. And that is where opportunity knocks. And we looked at Kena modeling, which is coming at a bit from a different angle to think about how much should we invest in this feature versus investing in that feature. And we saw that some of these features are, for basic needs. And once they're satisfied, investing more into them doesn't really help that much. And we found linear features where the more you invest, pretty much the more happy people are. And if they can still afford it, they'll be very happy. And they'll also be mostly prepared to pay for getting more of whatever that feature is, to the delighters, which are, differentiating you from the competition, and something that the customer isn't quite expecting, and possibly not quite expecting at this price point. So a lot of the innovation in the world is being able to delight at a similar price point as some of the other solutions. And we also saw data flywheels. And this is, really getting information from all of the actions that your customers are taking, whether it be from sensors out there in the world connected to cars or devices or watches or whatever the case may be, pipelines, or whether it's the actual software platform that people might be interacting with, getting metrics from all those systems and being able to then analyze them using machine learning, artificial intelligence, and human intelligence combined, and using that to determine what the next best improvement to the platform might be, and completing that virtuous cycle, continuing that virtuous cycle in a data flywheel approach. And by going through this process, we were able to identify problems and then define consistent descriptions of these problem definitions with potential solutions. And we saw that, what are the components of a typical solution to a specific problem statement? If only we could have like a puzzle to think about the different angles involved in taking a solution to a specific problem to a market. Well, Ash Moira and Alex Osterwalder have given us these puzzles, and we can use business model canvas or the lean canvas, do workshops and try and figure out how do we think we're going to complete these puzzles for the different problem definitions that we're going to be solving. And we went through the basics of the lean canvas. I'm not going to cover the detail now, but this is a good way to kick off, to think about all the different business angles that are involved in being able to take a solution to market successfully. We spoke about minimal viable products. That a minimal viable product is what is the minimum we can take out to market now to satisfy the learning that we need to do right now. And that learning could be just a landing page where we're trying to figure out desirability. Is this desirable? And the only point of the MVP is ensuring that we are determining or disproving, or proving or disproving desirability of the solution. Or we might be doing more of a feasibility type focus. So we're not caring yet about maybe scaling the solution that much. We just want to be sure that the solution is feasible and can work for the customer. And this is these concierge prototype type solutions where we're just proving feasibility. Followed by, lastly, trying to really prove viability. And this is taking out to a larger group in the marketplace and trying to test the scale and the economics of the solution that we're taking out to market. And you need to think in your situation, what is the MVP that you need to focus on where you are in this current invasion of the future? And then we went into, if we can describe what we want to try and do, whether we're going to try and do a landing page or we're going to try and take a product into market and try and test scale. The way to start is take the problem statement and identify the different actors or roles involved, and together identify the features. And once you've done that, we've got an inch-deep, mile-wide view of the solution, and that you need your knowledgeable decision makers in a room together when you're doing this to be able to identify a good potential first inch-deep, mile-wide view of a potential solution. And then we went from that to the risk value matrix to determine now our angle of attack. And not only do we determine our angle of attack, it's also a good way to determine what might not strictly be necessary for our first MVP. Okay, so anything that is top right-hand corner most likely goes off to MVP 2, 3, whatever the case may be. So now we have a nice view of what really is involved in MVP 1, plus an angle of attack. Fantastic. And we spoke about you needing knowledgeable decision makers in a room together to do this as effectively and efficiently as possible. You can do this in about a day, certainly, sometimes 2 days, and get a reasonable view of what this MVP might look like and an angle of attack through it. And then we went through how to determine at the level appropriate to where we are now about time and cost. And we went through if we can get something, we basically took all the estimates, added them up, and then said a team like this would be necessary to go through the entire backlog And how much does a team like that cost for a 2-week iteration? Then how much work can we possibly do in one 2-week iteration, and getting some number and then dividing the total with that number, and that gives us a thumbs-up view of how many iterations we'll need. And because we also know the cost per iteration, that'll give us a thumbs-up view of roughly how much this will cost. And we can either use plus minus 10% if we're confident in this space, or if you're new in either the business or the technology stack, rather use plus minus 20%. And after this exercise, what you can say is, if you can get something that looks about like this in about that much time for about that much money, is this a game that you want to play? Okay, and if the answer is yes, this is a game that we want to play, then we start working our way incrementally through our backlog. And this doesn't mean we finish feature 1 and then finish feature 2 and then finish feature 3. We take a risk-based approach. A risky portion of feature 1 might be what we tackle next, followed by a risky portion of feature 2, and the risky portion of feature 3. And the rest of them now goes down in the backlog, because we don't need to deal with them now. We're following a risk-based angle of attack. Remember the painting? Paint a bit of the face and the hair and so forth, and then focus a bit more on the eyes, and then a bit nose and mouth and jawline and the hair, and continue that cycle, filling in more and more detail as we get more and more certainty about our solution. And then we start focusing on both angles of product and process risk. What is the user experience going to be like? And that allows us to identify underlying technical risk. And then we start tackling technical risk, and then more process and user experience risk, and more technical risk, until the two combine. And by that time, we've got a walking skeleton, the fundamentals of the solution that we're trying to take to market. And once we've proved the fundamental skeleton, well, then we can start building out the lower risk aspects of what it is we're doing until we complete the entire solution. And whilst we're doing these innovation aspects, there will also be these logistical kind of aspects, which have last responsible moments for kicking off these logistical actions, like ordering servers or signing dealership contracts, or media buys, or whatever the case may be. And we saw that we go backwards from our proposed launch date, specifying the last responsible moment for starting these logistical actions, and then we can review continuously with our innovation space how things are going, and should we kick off this logistical task at this specific point in time. Good. We spoke about mission command, setting yourself up to be able to have your team tackle the next iteration in terms of working their way through this complex innovation space, and the kind of mission command structures you can put in place, so that every 2 weeks you can agree our candidate list for the next iteration, the next battle we're going to be fighting. Then taking that to the team and saying, does this make sense to you? Do you agree? Any questions? Are we getting a clear set of intent for the next battle? And the point is, when you get to your next battle, there are few questions remaining on what the intent is. Okay, and the team also believes that whatever this is, they believe that they'll be able to do a good job of this in 2 weeks' time. And this then continues as you're progressing through the solution space. So the goal here is to minimize your administration overhead and set up a good experimentation framework, an efficient, good, predictable experimentation framework as you're going through the solution space. And I don't mean predictable in terms of we always know we're going to solve problems. I mean predictable in terms of when are we talking to each other? When is our next decision point? Okay, when are we going to communicate again to each other? That is what must be predictable. We can't be always predicting that the solutions will work. That is the essence of innovation, is not knowing whether it will work. So what is predictable is our rhythm of working, our innovation factory. Great, and we can use burnout charts, which are simple visual tools to track and inform everyone involved whether our current invasion plan is panning out. And we can handle increase of scope. If we realize we've missed some key aspects of this MVP, we sort of raise the line, and then we can continue seeing roughly how many iterations we will need. And the key is, of course, to tackle your riskiest elements first. So hopefully the maximum amount of variation will occur in the beginning of this problem solution and innovation. And we become more certain about our end date as we are progressing through the risk-based angle of attack. Good. And we saw that competitive advantage is really about how quickly can you analyze and update your platform with a combination of human brains and coding together with artificial brains that learn, and then being able to verify that your platform is still behaving the way you want it to behave, and that the recent changes you have made to your platform, improvements, are working as expected, and that you can then roll this out safely as well as roll it back. And to being able to do this very, very efficiently. Key competitive advantage. And we saw that creating organizational memory is a key part of this. And the focus is not to create organizational memory in our requirements. Our invasion plan is not going to become organizational memory. What does become organizational memory are test cases. And every time we complete the next portion of our platform, we create the test cases, so that when we come out of this whole innovation cycle and we've successfully solved this problem, we have a battery of test cases that can make sure that our platform is still behaving in the way that it should behave. And we saw that part of creating organizational memory is our knowledge workers working together, and autonomy, mastery, purpose, and self-organization, and us only specifying intent, and them and our knowledge workers figuring out the solution together. That creates great knowledge in the organization. Okay, we saw that it's important to focus. Trying to tackle the entire border of this country that you're trying to invade is a very bad idea. You need to be able to focus your energies and do one thing at a time, if at all possible. Finish it, take it live, and then do the next thing. We saw the terrible economics involved in trying to do too many things together at the same time. And we saw that how the focus of organizations is changing, and that the work of humans in organization is changing from being mostly involved in the order to cash cycle, where humans are cogs in this platform and repeating recipe standard work steps over and over and over and over, with the minority of humans involved in improving our automated global production and distribution and service system. We're moving to a world where the majority of humans will be involved in updating our global integrated automated production, distribution and service platform. And the minority of human activity will be acting as cogs in this machine, doing repetitive steps. So we're basically moving towards most of us being involved in inventing the future together. And we saw that it's important for organizations to realize that they must treat their innovation capacity in a similar way that they're treating budgeting currently for customer service, let's say, or finance, or whatever the case may be. It's a capacity-based budgeting approach. So how much do we believe we can afford to invest in continuous innovation? And then the goal is, because innovative capacity, it's a slow-moving thing to be able to increase or decrease it. The focus is increasing or decreasing it on a rolling 6-month basis. And then the rest of the focus is effectively making use of that innovation capacity through massive force, economy of force, simplicity, etc. Okay? And we saw that the major activities involved are planning invasions, executing invasions, and making sure that our outcomes have been achieved. And that we create these phases in terms of planning invasions. And the key of these phases is not having perfect information, but knowing should we do A before B before C at each one of these phases. Should A progress to the next phase or not? Should B progress to the next phase or not? The goal is not perfect information. The goal is, should we focus on this now, or should we focus on that now? And we talked about Weighted Shortest Job First by Donald Reynoldson, where we get our stakeholders and our champions together, and all of us together review these potential futures that we can invade as a combination of business value plus time criticality plus opportunity enablement and risk reduction divided by the relative job size based upon the best information we have available at this point in time. And we saw that our amount of information increases as we go through these phases. The first one, dream research, is just Is this worth spending any time on? Should we even create a problem statement and a potential solution statement? Down to the next problem statements, where we have produced our standardized view of a problem statement with a potential solution, and we can now do weighted shortest job first voting, through to which ones will now be given the organizational capacity to have a workshop of a day or two of our best brains, our best knowledgeable decision makers together to focus, laser focus on this particular problem statement, and to come up with a inch deep, mile wide view showing that if you can get this for about that much money in about that much time, is it a game that you want to play? And if it is, it goes into the list of games that are waiting for capacity, innovative capacity to be able to play. And as soon as capacity becomes available, it goes in and we start iterating and experimenting our way through, working to take that minimal viable product to the market. And we saw that our organizations basically are future invasion forces. And there's a combination of non-standard work and a combination of standard work. Okay, so, and the way to think about this is content versus process. Folks which are busy invading a specific future at this point in time in your current innovation system. And then there are folks which are focused on improving the efficiency of your innovation system. And every 2 weeks, every iteration, we have our teams reflecting on how they can improve their local part of your innovation system. And for the areas which are outside of their control, that they need to escalate this to either product management or line management about that problem having to be solved and the necessary time and resources being allocated to agree how that aspect of our innovation system can be improved. And we saw that there are a number of factors involved in this continuous improvement, from engineering practices to architecture and code, to every aspect of what we covered in terms of military strategy and tactics. Being able to be better at unity of command, massive force, economy of force, being better able to set up the right logistics for us to execute well, whether it be environments and sticky notes on walls, or server capacity in virtualized servers and 3D modeling and 3D printers, or whatever the case may be, to enable us to learn and get information faster. Okay, so there's a lot to think about in terms of continuous improvement, and that we should have 1% or more of our organization focused on continuous improvement in our innovation system. Exactly. And critically, lastly, probably most importantly, is that the kind of culture that is required for innovation to flourish and succeed. And that Eric D. Beinhocker, seminal book, I really advise you to spend time reading that book. It was summarized as shared purpose, honesty, fact-based, non-hierarchical, transparency, respect, meritocratic, and mutual trust. And we need to use daily actions that we enable our knowledge workers and our decision makers to take together. Okay, so if we change people's actions, allowing them to change their actions, and assisting them in changing their actions, over time that means they start changing their behavior. And as more people start changing their behavior, that means you're starting to change your culture. Okay? And we spoke about the various things we're doing, how they reinforce and foster a good innovation culture. And we spoke about mastery, autonomy, and purpose being critical motivational factors for knowledge workers. It's not only about money. Pay people enough so that money is not a subject and it's off the table, so that people can focus on the work. And the work is about purpose. What are we trying to achieve here? About mastery, getting better at what we're doing and solving complex things together and getting the rush of solving these complex things together. Through to autonomy, which is give us intent and we will use our brains together to figure out the solution to your intent. Don't just give us instructions, okay? Mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And we ended off by saying that, this is not a case of management anymore, where there's a checklist and you can give warnings to people who are not following the checklists properly. These are now very highly skilled knowledge workers solving very complex problems together under difficult and challenging circumstances. And what's needed in this space is real leadership. Being a leader to a group of people invading a complex, difficult, and scary future and helping them to improve over time so that they become ever better and ever better at being able to conquer the future together. And for that, we need to have transformational leadership, and that is you. Idealized influence. Walk the talk. If you want people to respect each other, to be fact-based, to have mutual trust, you need to show those values so that they flourish in your organization. You need to focus on motivating your people, your knowledge workers. Like I said, in a military situation, motivation is not difficult. If we don't work together well, we're going to die. In our organization, the situation is not quite as dire. So we need to work as leaders greatly at motivating our knowledge workers to do the best that they've ever done and to conquer the future in ways that have never been done before. Motivation is a key factor, and leadership need to focus on this. And individualized consideration. People will put themselves on the line. They will take risks together to solve these problems if they believe that their contribution is truly valued. If they feel they're just a cog in a wheel and they treat it like a cog in a big machine, well, then you're going to get innovation results that reflect that. And intellectual stimulation. People enjoy solving complex problems together and getting the satisfaction of solving these complex problems together. Foster knowledge in your organization. Foster learning in your organization. Set challenges and assist people in achieving those challenges and doing the best that they've ever done. That is being a leader in this modern world. So yes, we're all off automating the world. And I ask you to please do this for us. The faster we can automate global production, distribution, and service, the faster we can get on to more important things in life. So thank you very much, and I wish you good luck in invading your future. Get it approved and attack and enjoy. And thank you very much for being part of Invading the Future course.